Carter, the Power Bryant. Oh my God! Don't do that.
Yes. Lock in.
Every time you do that, I kind of think of Maason or Major Burns doing that after a 12-yard completion.
There's nothing better than the DB. No, when he was burned on an overthrow or doing, let's go.
I know. Drives me insane. Carter, the Power Bryant, is joining us. You know, Tiger Droppings told me that you broke the news of Blake Baker.
That's so weird, right? I will go back and say this from the get-go. I was just like you. I was live. And I not nearly as well connected as you are, obviously. I got a text saying that this was the direction it was going. That's all I said. I was reading a text. I did not report that it was happening, but that was just my prediction. But everyone thought I have the success. It's just not really my thing. But it didn't shock me, Blake, and it's a good direction that LSU decided to go into.
So let's talk about it. What did you like about the Blake Baker news that he will be the next DC at LSU?
Well, the first thing, Blake, is this is where he wants to be, and this is where his family wants to be. So this was an easy decision for him. I still go back to the GeauxTigers video from earlier this year when he's talking to Scott Woodward. How many times do you see a DC talk to an opposing AD? You know that you know why, right? Because he wants it. I mean, this is his dream to be a DC at LSU and maybe one day be a head coach at LSU way later down in his career. And Blake, he's very impressive. I was shocked at how physical they were versus Georgia earlier this season, right? There was a lot of runs that went for 1 yard, 2 yards. You just don't see that versus a Georgia offensive line. So you look at that, you look at them holding Tennessee to 7 points. Blake, you know, I do not like Joe Milton at all. I think he's very average, but I don't care.
They choked out Tennessee, man. They completely choked them out. Yeah, like 40 minutes of time of possession. That defense killed them.
Right. And the Missouri defense was just really impressive. Now, did it help that they had very experienced secondary members? Yeah, for sure. They were really, really good in the back end, but they were underrated on the front end, right? With Hopper and those guys. 15 was a good player for them as well. So I really like it. Now, obviously, Blake, there's going to be a conversation of how much money it took, but that's not your worry, whoever you are watching this. It's worth it if he turns out to be a good DC.
Were you surprised that everybody was panicking over that? Like, oh, we're making them the highest paid DC in the country. Like, what are we doing? I look, you know what, Carter, and I jokingly brought this up a lot. You know, there was actually a report out there that some people thought that we didn't have the money to fire Matt House because of the buyout money. You know, there was a report that we would not go and buy out contracts for other coaches. Well, boy, did that turn out to be a lie, and you made Blake Baker the highest paid DC in the country.
Yeah,
like, and I mean, this is Carter. At some point, this is still LSU.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are freaking out, Blake, because LSU's just not gotten the high-profile transfers that some of the other schools have gotten. And look, you do have to spend to get Quinshon Judkins to go from Ole Miss to Ohio State. You do have to do some of that, right, to get some of the higher-profile transfers. But it's more important to get a defensive coordinator that you love, because that guy is going to be here hopefully for a long time. And if Blake Baker isn't here next year, that means he was very, very, very good and he got a head coaching job elsewhere. I like to hire Blake. Was he my number one guy? No, but he was in that realm.
Who was your number one guy?
I liked Guidry a lot. I really, really did. But Blake Baker was right into that conversation. And I understand that a lot of people wanted a bigger name, like the mentor guy at Michigan or Jim Leonard, who's an analyst at Illinois. But Blake, I mean, those guys are Northern guys, right? Those guys are probably going to be NFL guys soon. So I love this decision to go get Blake Baker, and I think it's going to work out really well for LSU.
Anything that you've noticed from Blake Baker that you like schematically?
Yeah. So the one thing that really stood out to me, Blake, in particular, the Georgia game, right? They really made Georgia earn everything. It was a quick watch. Obviously, I've been looking at a lot of
back to back years too.
right. So the fact that Georgia really had to earn their yards, their touchdowns. One thing people get wrong about Georgia is they just overpower you. No, they've got great scheme. They scheme people open. And I really only saw like one bust in that game. Now, Georgia, of course, got theirs, and they were the better team, and they deserved to win. But no one expected Missouri to give them that much issues. I didn't say that smoothly at all. But it was a very fun watch, just how physical that they were and how smart they were, right? They play together, and hopefully that continuity goes from Missouri to LSU, and that's going to be the big thing. Can LSU play together, and can they actually make tackles next year?
Well, see, another thing that I talked about, Carter, it was actually a year ago today. I brought this up at on a religious level. Is if I could wrap up 2022 in a bow, okay, did you have struggles? Yes. First year head coach. I understand. I'm not saying you're supposed to win every game, but Carter, they lost a lot of games last year because of how bad they were on third down. Carter, think about this. In the 3 games that you lost, okay, teams went 31 of 47, okay, on conversion downs. 66%. It's actually 65.9%, but I'm just rounding up the 0.1%. 20 of those conversions out of 29 came on 3rd and 5 plus.
That's hard, man.
That is disgusting. Like, if Blake Baker, even with, and we'll talk about the personnel in just a moment, even with a little bit less, Carter, like even with, you take 20, 30% of that away from them, Carter, you're 11-1. I still think you lose to Florida State. You're 11-1. You're going to the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing Blake Baker has to clean up. Like, look, I will tell you this, and I will continue to say it. Please don't play passive. If you're going to give up the long plays next year, at least send the entire house, pun intended. At least give yourself a chance to make chaos. And I think Blake Baker will do that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And one step further, Blake, is Baker did a good job defensively making you earn everything.
Every yard.
Right? Like, you look at LSU last year, they were the worst in the SEC in touchdown percentage in the red zone, right? There was just nothing that they did well. And Missouri just did a good job making things really, really hard on LSU and just other teams in general. Like the last throw to Malik Neighbors that was wide open in that game, sure, that's a bust. But that's after Jaden did 1,000 different incredible things to get you to that point. So I'm really excited about Blake. I think LSU is going to take a step forward defensively under his tutelage, but obviously the next step is who's your staff going to be? And then after that, you got the very important roster decisions you're going to have to make in determining who your 2 deep is going to be next year.
All right, well, let's get to the 2 deep because I have some serious concerns. Maason Smith declared for the NFL draft today. I know that Maason did not have a good year at all. But Carter, I got to be real with you. I'm really worried about where you're at in the interior of the defensive line. Really worried. Like you're going during the spring, and even if you have to go backdoor, but you have to go backdoor and talk to some guys about getting in the portal. Carter, you need interior defensive linemen more than you need air at the current moment. You are horrible there.
I'm in agreement with you.
Horrible. They're not good enough. Let me not say horrible. Not good enough.
No. It's just horrible is fine, right? Because it's not where it needs to be. I mean, like you have Jacoby and Guillory coming back, and then after that, it's the Will Smith meme in the middle of his den with no Uncle Phil around. Man, you're wondering.
I mean, you got Don McKinley. that technically is not signed yet.
Right. And Sean Washington. So
Washington, right?
that
You're not good enough. Carter, those two guys are going to have to play. You're not good. If those are your two guys, you're not good enough right now.
yeah, and to go one step further, right? Maason didn't have a great year, but at least he finished the season with 2 really good games and 2 really good fourth quarters. But he would have played really well next year, and I wish he would have come back. I think it would have done him a lot of good. He would have been the for sure guy. But look, the defense is about a collective, and you need
Pun
numbers.
Intended. Pun intended.
Right. Yeah, oh, I didn't even think about that. That collective and honestly, how you play together as a group. You know, what's very interesting to go back to Blake Baker was it's important to pick up what actually happened in Missouri previous. So they made a Pelini kind of hire, and they got Steve Wilkes.
That's right.
And it didn't work. Right, he's an NFL guy. So Wilkes has been one of the best DCs in the NFL and at San Francisco, but he was terrible. He was absolutely terrible with Missouri. So the fact that Baker turned that around that quickly is still
ran some 3-3-5. Had to run 3-3-5 because he didn't have the bodies in the interior. He's going to have to do it again. I mean, I hate to say that, Carter. We're about to run the 3-3-5 stack. Watch.
Let's do it. Let's go to get
out of here with that. We ain't going to do that.
Get Zach Arnett as an analyst. Why
He's going to have to be creative, dude. He's going to have to be ultra creative.
I'm with you. I really am, Blake. Now, what I will tell you is, I went back and I re-watched the Wisconsin game, posted the film study this weekend. As normal bowl film studies, they don't really move the needle so much.
Right.
But a guy that really stood out to me in that game, even though he got beat, and even then I questioned the deep completion he gave up, was Javian Toviano, right? Really, really good bowl game for me. It may not look like that on the macro, but he did some really good little things well in that game. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where his best fit moving forward is. Do you want him to be an outside corner? Do you want him to be a big-time safety where I think he would be absolutely magnificent? So at least LSU has that going for him. But like we always say, it's about the collective. How deep can you be? To use a prime example here, everybody wanted Jesse Minter at Michigan, right? Well, Michigan, they rotated DBs last night, Blake. I mean, they've got backup safeties, they got backups
dude,
on
they
all.
Were so impressive. They are so freaking impressive, dude.
Like, that is one of the best college football defenses that I have ever seen. And it's because they have a gazillion bodies. They're really deep.
The Graham kid in the interior, they can get after you with their front seven. They've got a linebacker that's 6'3", 250 and runs like the wind blows. Hashtag Forrest Gump. I mean, because, he's from the state of Alabama. Or is it Tennessee? I forget, but I think a kid's from Alabama. Maybe he's a 615 or maybe he's from Nashville. But he's from the South. So, I mean, they got dudes. You know what? And you know what else, Carter? They have recruited well. They've evaluated well. They've developed well. And you know what they do better than anybody that I've seen? Even better than I think Georgia last year to some extent. Bro, they tackle so freaking well in space.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Dunze, Polk, McMillan. Bro, they wrap them up like a damn some saran wrap. You ever saran wrap the car? You ever try to get saran wrap off the car? Okay.
Yes.
That's some. I know in the towns like Arkansas, like where you live, I know that you saran wrapped the car too.
Well, actually, we did that in college a lot. LSU.
Yeah. So it's harder. Pause, but it's just true.
Gotta wrap it up, baby.
Carter, why do I have the thought process, and I know why I do, but why am I just not worried about the secondary? Like, okay, you did bad. You weren't good. You weren't good enough. I also am realistic enough to know that you played 2 true freshmen on the outside of boundary and had 2 safeties at boundary corner. The point that I'm trying to make here is this. I can live with your secondary not being great. I cannot live at LSU with your front seven not being good. I refuse to allow that to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Blake. And obviously, the things one big thing is going to be the off-ball linebacker spot, right? Um, let me know in the chat. Let me know what you think. Do you feel comfortable with Greg Penn and Whit Weeks as your starting linebackers next year?
What's Omar Speights doing? He's got an extra year of eligibility, I'm assuming. He hadn't declared for anything.
No, he's done, right? This was year 5.
He had a red-shirted freshman year, the COVID year, and then he's got the extra COVID year.
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken, let me look that up. Continue.
But yeah, I mean, even if you do, like my buddy Rick K says, even if you like Weeks and Penn, who are your backups going to be? Is there a true freshman that you feel really good about coming in early? What about Christian Brathwaite, who got some special teams rep in the bowl game? Finding those off-ball linebackers.
No, he's done. You're right. That's my bad. I thought he redshirted in 19. You're right.
Yeah. So, and most LSU fans would consider that a good thing. No offense, obviously, to Omar.
Right.
Booger McFarland still is number one hater. But dude, I was like, God, Booger, you just he does not hold back. So I'm always a McFarland guy, man. I think he's
well. You need Greg Penn to have a not Dwight McLaughlin. God dog it. Why is his name on the tip? The linebacker that Damone Clark.
Yeah,
you need Blake Baker to mold Greg Penn into a Damone Clark. I mean, you do, but I don't think it matters because I don't brother. I don't think you're good right now in the interior. Like, what you gonna put in Gabe Relaford? Gabe Relaford's a hybrid. He's 260. He can't play in there.
Yeah, not yet. At least not yet.
Not yet. I mean, he might get to 280 pounds, but I mean.
Yeah, it's the here's part of the issue that Blake Baker is going to have with the guys that are still on the team, right? Is so many of these guys were like kind of tweener guys, where they're not necessarily a certain position. They're kind of just in the middle of the body type you need to play a certain position, and then in the Madhouse system, those positions really weren't defined. So Blake Baker is going to have to figure that out. See, do you feel Savion Jones is a starting defensive end in the SEC? And if you think he is, what do you feel he could play your system? So there's two different questions that Baker is going to ask when it comes to the guys that are returning next season. It's going to be difficult. So that's why I'm with you, Blake. I would like to see some heavy portal activity on defense.
All right. I'm sure I'm leaving something out here, but I got one more for you. Your thoughts on what they do with the rest of the staff? Like, what do you? I mean, obviously Corey Raymond, and we've talked about him is being brought up a ton. Is there anybody else you would like to see them try to go after?
No, not really, Blake, because I'm horrible with the assistant coach search thing. Coordinator search, head coach search, sure, because there's only so many plausible names you can go through. Assistant coach search is a whole different animal, especially when it's relatively later in the coaching process. So a lot of it is going to come down to if assistant X wants to come in, right? Does he want to leave his current job? That's why Corey Raymond is so interesting. Corey Raymond is doing nothing. You know, this is what he wants. He probably wants his DB coach job more than anyone out there. So that's going to be the name, Blake, until something actually happens with that. I'll touch on it briefly on my show tonight, but still, we're all just kind of guessing there. But it could be imminent. There's reporters at whoa.
Say, you got to say something. You can't be weird. You got to say something. Who are you?
No, that has the glasses. Look at that.
All right. Go save Gotham City, Batman. Go save New York, Spidey. Close the door, dude.
Peter Parker. Look
Obsessed.
at you.
Obsessed.
Why do kids like Spider-Man so much more than all the other superheroes?
He's a kid.
But like relative to all the other superheroes, Spider-Man still.
He's in high school. He's in school.
Oh, okay. Because like Peter Parker's younger and Miles Morales. Okay.
Yeah, Miles Morales Homer over there.
Okay, there you go.
Daddy, this one shoots lightning. I'm like, oh my God. All right. Carter the Power Bryant, always fantastic, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Dennis Allen is the next Bill Belichick. Don't listen to anything this guy's about to say.
Get off. Stop. Stop. Don't do that to me.